quiet week of weather is in store for most of the United States. We have the latest on the California wildfires and their impacts, and the January icebox is not loosening its grip anytime soon. Welcome to the Weather Farm. I'm meteorologist Christopher Hale. We have a quiet week of weather in store for most of the United States. The big story is the California wildfires and their impact to Southern California. We have the latest information in regards to that, and is there any sign of improvement? And we have bitter cold still in the forecast for as we close out the month of January. As we begin our Monday, we will see an area of disturbed weather with low pressure centered around Mississippi and Alabama. It's going to bring light rain showers, generally under 1/2 of an inch for most of the area around the Gulf of Mexico, spreading into Florida and southern Georgia. To our north, we do have a clipper system that's making its way through the Great Lakes. Lake-enhanced snowfall will be the primary threat for this system, but we couldn't rule out an inch or two in those localized areas away from the lake. And then we also will start to see our lake effect snow machines building up for Lake Erie and Lake Ontario as we move Monday night into our Tuesday. And out west, we have an area of high pressure which is going to make its way south into the Great Basin area. This higher pressure is going to cause an increased risk of fire danger and wildfires across Southern California as we go later into the week. So as we move towards our Tuesday, we see that area of low pressure has dissipated. That high remains firmly entrenched around the Great Basin area, and it's going to fuel those fires as we get into our Tuesday and Wednesday. We're going to have low relative humidities in Southern California, and we're going to have the increased wind speeds associated with that area of high pressure. It's going to lead to, unfortunately, to an increased risk of further wildfires. Out east, we do have a clipper system that's going to make its way from the northern Great Plains through Illinois into Indiana. Light snow is expected here, 1 to 2 inches. But then across Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, the Upper Peninsula, we have that lake effect snow machine going, as well as those isolated areas around Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. For the most part, high pressure is in control over most of the United States, from the Rockies to the Appalachians and every place north and south of there, save a few areas. And that's going to be primarily the weather story for this coming week. It isn't until we get towards the weekend that we start to see a change in our weather pattern. When we look at snowfall amounts with the lake effect snow, those areas just east of Lake Erie, you're going to see an isolated 6 to 12 inch snow bands. The bigger area of snow is going to be just east of Lake Ontario into New York, where you're going to see a more widespread 12 to 18 inches. This is just going to be south of the Buffalo area. Looking across the upper Midwest, again, across the UP, general 4 to 6 inches of snowfall. And then on the lee side of Lake Michigan, we will see also 2 to 5 inches. Places like Traverse City, down towards Grand Rapids, you could see 2 to 4 inches of snow. Unfortunately, our big story is the wildfires in California. We have 3 main fires: the Palisades Fire, which has burned over 23,000 acres so far. The Eaton Fire has burned a little more than 14,000 acres. And the Hearst Fire is about 80% contained right now, so it's a little bit more under control. Palisades, you're about 13% containment, and the Eaton Fire is about 25% containment. So far, over 40,000 acres have burned. This map at the time of the recording had 10 fatalities. We have recently learned within the last 15 minutes that that number has gone up to 24 fatalities, and over 12,000 structures have been destroyed. So we have 3 main fires that we are watching, but you can see there's also these other little red dots all across the map, one near Riverside, one couple down towards Long Beach, along the coast, out towards Simi Valley. Those little dots indicate also other wildfires, but less than 10 acres burned at this point. As I mentioned, the high pressure building in across the Great Basin is going to only exacerbate the situation as we get those winds coming out of the northeast across the mountain and down sloping, heating up as those winds come down the mountain range and the air compresses, and the relatively dry relative humidities that we expect 5 to 15% for most areas this coming week is going to cause an enhanced fire risk across this area. But as I mentioned, we have a quiet week of weather. There's the Great Lakes snow system that's making its way east Monday into Tuesday. The area of rain along the Gulf Coast has moved out. High pressure is building in the Great Basin, unfortunately contributing to that enhanced risk of wildfires. We do have a little clipper system moving across Manitoba into Ontario with a low associated near Hudson Bay. We start to see by our Thursday and Friday rain making its way into British Columbia and snowfall. Another little clipper system makes its way in, but we're going to now turn our attention as we see these southwesterly winds moving into the Ohio Valley. We're going to watch for an area of low pressure to kick out of Kansas into Colorado. It's going to tap into some Gulf moisture. We could see severe weather, and on the north side, we could see a significant snowstorm as all of that energy races east by the time we get into Sunday. And out west, it's still very quiet and calm as we end the week. As we look at next weekend, the Climate Prediction Center has put most of the Central Plains into the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes under a slight risk of heavy snow. Again, this is from January 18th through January 20th. They believe that there will be a system that will bring the potential for heavy snow. The last time that we saw this, last week, was across the south, and that came to fruition. The time before that, we saw it around January 5th and 6th through the Central Plains into the Ohio Valley. We saw widespread heavy snow and, unfortunately, an ice event for several places from Missouri to Illinois to Indiana. So we're going to keep our eye on this area for this upcoming weekend for the signs of a significant storm. But after that storm rolls through, the big weather story is going to be the bitter cold that is going to continue to persist throughout January. So as we go into this week, most of the eastern half of the United States is below normal with temperatures. This is the 850 millibar anomaly map. The real warm temperatures relatively are across the Canadian provinces. We do get a little bit of a dose of that as we move Thursday into Friday across the northern plains, moving into the Ohio Valley. That's being transported northeastward on these strong southwesterly winds. Out west, we do get a little bit of a cool down as we make our way through the weekend. But right behind that warm air and that system, we have a major punch of brutally Arctic air. We start to see these light pinks and these light purples showing up. That is the core of the air. This is some of the coldest temperatures that we have seen across parts of Montana into the Dakotas into Minnesota. By the time we get to next week, towards Inauguration Day in the United States, that core of the air is starting to then migrate a little further south and towards the Ohio Valley as we get around the 21st or the 22nd. And this area stays around for a long time. It's not moving out anytime soon. In fact, it's going to take almost a whole week to migrate from the Dakotas all the way to the East Coast and all the way down to the Gulf. Out west, we still continue to see warmer than normal temperatures, but primarily just along the west coast. The interior of the Rockies remains below normal as well. And this is all being caused by our jet stream. And so when we look at our jet stream, it's kind of doing one of these things. It's almost L-shaped. And so out here across the Rockies, it's very meridional, straight up and down. We almost have a zonal flow across the Ohio Valley. But look, we're going to get a little buckle here in the jet stream by about Wednesday into Thursday, and that's going to become the focus of a strong area that's going to eject out of the Rockies across the plains and set the stage for a major winter storm somewhere in the Great Lakes to the Ohio Valley this coming weekend. We start to see it developing here as those strong winds start to bring the warmer air north and eastward, and there's that buckle. And so we expect that storm track to ride along that jet stream as it makes its way east. But right behind it, we have another dip in the jet stream, allowing that Arctic air to move all the way down towards the Gulf. And then right behind it is yet another dip in the jet stream. We start to see that here across the Four Corners region, ejecting out. And it's because of this type of pattern, meridional across the Rockies, more zonal across the eastern half of the United States, that we believe that there's going to be several rounds of snow or significant storms impacting the eastern 2/3 of the United States, not only for the upcoming weekend and beyond, but as we close out the month of January. It seems like there's every 2 or 3 days another buckle in the jet stream that's going to spin up a storm somewhere. We kind of see this here. As we look at the 21st, we see meridional flow across the Canadian province of Saskatchewan, down through Montana and Wyoming and Colorado, and then we have this buckle. The GFS model wants to have a system way off the coast of the United States. The European doesn't have any significant storm systems, but we are going to watch this particular area because we have strong winds that's going to be able to tap into the Gulf of Mexico and into the Pacific moisture. Cold air is already going to be in place. So if we can get enough instability and a disturbance to spin up somewhere from Oklahoma down through Texas or to Kansas and ride along the strong winds of that jet stream, we could see several rounds of significant winter weather impacting the eastern half of the United States. Will it take a southerly track more through the Ohio Valley, or will it take more of a Gulf low and dive up into Ontario? All of that still be determined, but the setup is ripe for numerous winter weather storms to impact the eastern half of the United States throughout the end of the month of January. The bitter cold temperatures are going to be in place. They may relax every day or from time to time. You may go 4 or 5 days with bitterly cold temperatures and have a 1-day reprieve or maybe a couple days reprieve where temperatures get near normal, only to be followed by another blast of Arctic air. But that seems to be the general pattern to close out the month of January. And our friends at the Climate Prediction Center, they confirm this thinking as well. They've issued this dark blue, which indicates a 90% chance or greater of seeing below normal temperatures everywhere from Texas through Arkansas, Missouri, through the Ohio Valley to the Great Lakes, and even spreading into the Northeast, into Pennsylvania, West Virginia. And most of the country, save down by there in far southern Florida, near Miami, being above normal. The white areas indicate near normal temperatures, and those are even confined to the far extremes of the United States. And so this is just one particular model look of what we could see a week from now. We could be waking up to temperatures widespread 20 to 30 degrees below normal across the Dakotas into Montana, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Manitoba, 30 to 40 degrees below zero, and those are actual temperatures. If we remember, that jet stream is going to dive down through Saskatchewan into Montana, and that's going to be a strong northerly wind. So when you have temperatures 30 degrees below zero, you're thinking you're going to have wind chills or those feels-like temperatures 50 to 60 degrees below normal. And that cold air is making its way all the way to the south. We have 20s and 30s down towards the Gulf, even down towards central Florida in the low 40s, and even out west, down towards Los Angeles in the low 40s as well for morning lows as we make our way into the next week. So this cold air is going to take its grip on the United States, and it's going to last, as we saw from the 850 anomaly map. It's going to migrate and move towards the East Coast the entire week of the 20th of January. Now, it won't be 20 degrees below zero in places like Kentucky or South Carolina or North Carolina. This air will moderate some, but the core of that cold, the Arctic origins, it's going to be felt for most of the United States. Well, we thank you for joining us here at the Weather Farm. Let us know where you're watching from. If you have any comments, any things you would like to see us do or comment on here at the Weather Farm, leave them in the comments. Subscribe, like, hit that bell notification icon so that you are notified of the latest developments, especially as we look towards this coming weekend in that developing system. We'll see you again real soon.